All right, everybody. One last video for 2024. And I just have to say this, man. You simply must refuse black pills every single time you're offered them. And you're offered them quite a bit. This is the biggest pill pushing that I've seen in any scenario, any context. When you're offered a black pill, you simply must refuse to take it. All right. Yeah, I got this idea. I haven't done a video in a few days, about a week, let's just say. And, I got this idea because of a lot of personal messages that people have sent my way. And this has been both in DMs and, texts and stuff like that. It's also been in just regular conversations in real life, with regular people, things of that nature. And I got to say, there is a lot of hand-wringing, a lot of frustration, a lot of just sad emotions that people are feeling because of all the conflict and the fighting and the controversy that has been kind of, rearing its ugly head here on the internet. And I understand to a certain degree. You know what I mean? I definitely understand. People are very uncomfortable with fighting. People are uncomfortable with, criticizing people that have been, on the good list for so long. And there's the disconnect, there's controversy, there's arguing and all of this kind of stuff. And I can understand being uncomfortable with that. And to a certain degree, I'm uncomfortable with that kind of thing. I don't like fighting with people, especially people that I like. It's just not on my top 10 list of things to do. But as I've always said, I'm one of those kind of people that I'm not going to necessarily shy away from a fight. I'm willing to fight even if I don't like it. I'm not comfortable with conflict, but I'm willing to be in conflict. It's something that you need to, if you're gonna ever, be okay with it. It's like a muscle that needs to be exercised over time. And the more conflicts that you find yourself in, the more comfortable you are with being in them, even though you're never going to be fully comfortable with it. And so I wanted to do this video because I wanted to encourage every single person that is feeling a little bit uncomfortable with all of the fighting that's been going on. Because here's the thing, man. I joined the Fight, Laugh, Feast network a few years ago. I'm still on the network, even though I don't post a lot of podcasts on there. I'll post this one on there. But I'm still on the network. I'm still in communication with Gabe Wrench and every now and then Toby Sumter. I talk to Yuri, Brito, not all the time, but I have talked to him a few times in all of this. And here's the thing, like when I joined the Fight, Laugh, Feast network, I really meant it. You know what I mean? I wanted to laugh and feast, and there has been a little bit less laughing and feasting going on, at least, publicly in some people's opinion, than there used to be. And there's a little bit more fighting, but I really believed in the fight part. The fighting is actually pretty healthy. Now, it doesn't mean that all fighting is healthy, right? Like, because I will admit this, one of the things that has made me feel a little bit frustrated is not the fights themselves. The fights are fine. The fights are healthy. It's good when people disagree and are willing to talk about their disagreements and argue about them and, throw a few jabs here and there. And even some spicy takes are pretty good too. But I think what's disappointed me and what's frustrated me is the manner in which some of the fights have been happening. It certainly seems to me that there is a tremendous amount of inconsistency in the attacks that have been coming our way. A lot of really petty type stuff as well. And I didn't expect that from people. But here's the thing that you need to give people a lot of grace, right? Because when you're fighting, it is very easy to make mistakes, right? You don't always do things the way you ought to do them. You don't always say the things that you ought to say. Like, think about times you've been in arguments with people that you care about. I mean, this happens all the time, right? Like, whether it's a spouse or whether it's, a brother or a parent or something like that. When you get emotional, a lot of times You do say things in a way that you know full well you shouldn't have said it that way, but you said it, and you sometimes you instantly regret it. Sometimes you regret it much later, but it just kind of comes out. And I don't mean to make it seem like it's a mistake and it's just something that happens to you. No, it's a sin. Oftentimes it is a sin where you treat someone in a way you know full well you shouldn't treat them that way, but you do it anyway in the middle of a fight, when emotions are running high. And that's a choice that you've made, right? You've made that choice to do that. So I don't mean to make it sound like it's just this thing that happens to people and they really can't help it. But in the moment, sometimes it feels like you can't help it. And so that's kind of why I said it that way. But it is a sin, right? It is a sin to be so inconsistent in your criticism of someone that you're in a fight with. And maybe you do like them, maybe you don't like them. But in the moment, when when you're in the argument, when you're in the fight, you say something or do something that you would never do if you weren't feeling emotional. I believe that you can, there's two choices for you, and this is a choice that I have to make all the time when I see this kind of stuff for myself. And one choice is I can write that person off, and I could just be angry and bitter for the rest of time. I could do that. Lots of people take that choice, right? Or I can say, man, we're in a fight, and I definitely egged it on a little bit. I said some things that were a little spicy. Even if I don't regret them, I still said some spicy things, and they came back with this, which was definitely not right. But you can give people not a pass necessarily, but sort of a pass in those kinds of situations. You can have grace for people, and I really want people to really consider that as an option here. It's totally an option. When people say things to me online that I'm friendly with, that I'm like, where did that come from? You know what I mean? And I've got a choice every single time. I could choose to be really angry about it and take it real personal, or I can recognize that, look, we're in a fight, and in a fight, sometimes there's a stray elbow that gets you, and it's like, I know he didn't mean to elbow me, but I could, my sons do this all the time. My young sons, they'll fight, you know what I mean? And they'll be play fighting. And, you guys know, if you have young kids, that play fighting often turns into real fighting. And it's often because somebody accidentally kicks somebody else when they were just trying to pretend to kick them. And then they accidentally connect. And then the other one takes it real personally and just clocks them. Like, this happens all the time, right? Look, we're not children. We get that, right? Children, of course, they're not in as much control of themselves as maybe adults should be. But we have to recognize that kind of thing happens all the time. And so my advice to you in these difficult, frustrating times, especially if you're one of these people, and I've talked to dozens and dozens of people that are in this predicament, and they say, man, I really like Right Response Ministries, and I really like Canon, I really like, Apologia Radio, and this is just making me really sad. And I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I don't want to take sides, but I feel like I kind of have to. Look, you don't have to. You don't have to take sides. It's okay to recognize where one side went wrong and maybe the other side went wrong in a different place and stuff like that. And that's just the end of it. You can still like Apologia Radio. You can still like Right Response. You can still like Canon Press. Look, these guys I think I know why some of you guys are feeling this way. It's because you haven't seen some of these ministries act this way before. You haven't seen some of these people act this way before. And if you have, it's never been against someone else that you liked, right? It's easy when the person you're fighting with is like Michael Brown or something. Like, a lot of my audience didn't really care for Michael Brown, so it's like, whatever, who cares? It's just a fight with another wacko. Like, but now it's like, well, Joel Webbin, I mean, I like him, and to see this fight and all this kind of stuff, it's uncomfortable. I haven't seen it before. I haven't seen it too often anyway. And so you feel suddenly like this pull to, like, I don't know, adjudicate it, to fix it or something like that. But you don't have to do any of that. You can just enjoy the content that you like to enjoy. And if you see something about this controversy, it's okay to skip that stuff. You know what I mean? I do this kind of stuff all the time. When I see a Canon Press video that I'm uninterested in the topic, it's not because I don't like them. I just don't care about the topic. I don't listen to it, right? Or if there's a topic that I know I'm not going to like what I hear, I just won't listen to it. It's not a big deal. You know what I mean? That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about here. This is completely okay. It's okay to sort of not have it all fixed as you kind of move forward and you're deciding what kind of content to listen to and things like that. This is the thing. All of the people in this controversy have so much good going for them. You know what I mean? They have so much good going for them. I had a message that said, why are you randomly attacking Apologia Radio all of a sudden? Like, why are you doing that? Why are you attacking Apologia Radio? You know, and I talked to this person. I said, you know, that's kind of a weird question to me for me to hear, because I don't think I am attacking Apologia Radio. And I've never mentioned Apologia Radio on my YouTube channel before because, you know, I mean, in general, I'm happy to let them do what they do. They do great stuff most of the time. You know, like 95% of what they do, I'm like in total agreement with, and I like it. And so, you know, I wouldn't mention them on the channel, but not because I don't like them. It's because there's just really no reason for me to mention them on the channel. But now they've given me a reason to mention them on the channel. You know, they've participated in a coordinated attack against a ministry that I'm on the board of. And so if you want to know why am I attacking Apologia Radio, well, it's not random. I'm attacking things in Apologia, you know, personalities, whatever, because they decided to fight basically me first. I mean, not me personally, but a ministry that I'm a part of. And so it would make sense. I mean, I think an impartial observer would be like, well, yeah, Apologia Radio, at least some people associated with it, they decided to go after Joel Webbin, you know, Right Response Ministries. Adam's on the board of Right Response Ministries. So, yeah, it makes sense why he's kind of fighting back, you know, pushing back, punching back, attacking back. That all makes sense. It's not random. It's just because, you know, it's not like I woke up one day and said, yeah, you know, let's just attack Apologia Radio. I had no reason to do that. I like what they do, and I still like what they do. I don't like this part of what they do, and make no bones about that. But that's why that's happening, right? Well, why are you attacking Dr. White? Well, I'm not attacking Dr. White. I'm fighting back. I'm fighting back from things that Dr. White has said about myself and my friends. I still like Dr. White, and I still would listen to The Dividing Line on certain topics and things like that. Dr. White's great, and I don't want to throw any shade towards Dr. White. I think that in this fight, he's acted in a way that I can't approve of course, and I'm going to fight back. Obviously, I'm a man too. And so we're going to do that, and we're going to dance, and we're going to fight. I mean, that's why I joined the Fight, Laugh, Feast Network, because I really believed in all of this. I believed in fighting, I believed in laughing, and I believed in feasting, and I still do. I believe in all of those things. And so while I don't go looking for fights with James White, I wouldn't want to do that because I like him. I'm pro Dr. James White. I'm not going to shy away from a fight that comes to me from his direction. It's just not going to be how it works. And so that's, you know, again, these are fights that, you know, sometimes they happen, and it's totally fine. I think we all have to consider always, whenever we're in a conflict or a controversy or a fight, how we engage in those fights. And then, you know, listen, obviously I'm not a perfect man. I'm not it's not like I'm expecting Dr. James White to be perfect, and I'm, you know, and I don't have to worry about that. It's not like that at all. I think that there's, of course, some things that I've said and done that maybe I don't regret them, but maybe maybe I could have said it a little differently, lower the temperature just a little bit. But ultimately, I made the decisions that I made, and I'm okay to stand, you know, trial for those kinds of things if that's what you know needs to happen. But yeah, again, this is the thing. Like, I don't believe the black pill, you know, offering that reformdom is like in chaos and reform Twitter is dead and look at all this chaos, and I don't buy that at all. I think that fighting is a clear sign that it's not dead, that it's alive and well. If you're fighting online or even in person or whatever, like that's a sign that you're still kicking, you're still alive, there's still something at stake, and you know we're gonna go for it, right? Fighting is a good thing, and it can be very healthy too, especially if you fight in a way that is not underhanded, right? That is above board. That is the kind of stuff that I think we need to see a whole lot more of in 2025. Like, I've said this numerous times, and I'll say it again. Like, I think we'd be greatly served by seeing someone in an above board kind of way. I'm not talking about whisper campaigns. I'm not talking about throwing, those atomic bomb words at people. Oh, you're a racist. You're this. You're that. Like, I'm not talking about that. That's all underhanded nonsense. That's how lames fight. I don't want to see any of that anymore. We've seen enough of that in 2024. But I've said I would absolutely love to see a legitimate in-person or maybe on video, direct person-to-person attempt at a takedown of Stephen Wolf. That's what I would love. I would love to see someone talk to Stephen Wolf because I think that would be so beneficial, man. I'll speak for myself, I would get a tremendous amount of benefit for that, where there's an opportunity. You've got him right in front of you. You could take him down right now. You'll say some things, and he'll say some things, and he'll defend himself. He'll expand. You'll defend yourself. Everyone will have an opportunity to see where the real differences lie, and think through those things for themselves. I think that would be so beneficial. And the problem that I have with the underhanded, not above board tactics, the whisper campaigns, the embargoes, the hey, I'm not going to show up at your conference type stuff, all that lame stuff, all that petty stuff, all it does is put us in a situation where people feel like they have to take sides. People feel like they have to take sides, and they have to cancel their subscription to whatever, because there's no other way to fight, because you're actually not going to directly fight somebody, right? Because I would love to, look, if Stephen Wolf is wrong about some things, I'd certainly love to see someone talk about that. And so I can think through these things a little bit better, because look, I think I'm a smart guy, but I think I get value from these kinds of debates and these conversations and these interfaith dialogues, whatever you want to call them, call it whatever you want. I would love to see that, man. I would love to see someone take down Stephen Wolf, or at least attempt to take down Stephen Wolf in an above-board, direct confrontation that we've gotten so used to over the years, but for some reason in the last couple years, we've decided to switch to whisper campaigns, embargoes, and throwing epithets at each other. I just don't think that's effective. It's not valuable, and it's really not becoming of solid ministers of the faith that we've grown to know and love for so long. It's not doing you any favors. It's not doing you any good. It's not doing anyone any good. I know you guys want to serve the body of Christ and serve them in this way. Serve us in this way. That would be so beneficial to so many. I've seen so many comments. I've received so many comments about how beneficial they would find something like that. And count me in their number. I would agree. I don't hate Stephen Wolf. I'm not trying to get someone to take him down because I can't stand him and I think he's dangerous or evil or whatever. I'm trying to do this in an academic sense. That'd be helpful to me. It'd be helpful to me to think through some of these things. I don't know, man. I find this, and obviously, one of the other fights that's going on, people are trying to cancel Canon Plus or whatever it is. And I'm not in that number. I still have Canon Plus, and I'm still going to have Canon Plus. I still get tremendous value from it. I think it's a tremendous tool. If you want to cancel Canon Plus, I'm not going to try to stop you, obviously. You do what you got to do. It's your money, right? It's your money. You want to send a message, or maybe you just can't afford it anymore, whatever it is, whatever reason. You don't even have to have a reason. You can just cancel it to stick it to us if you want. That's your business, not mine. But as for me, I find tremendous value in it, and so I'm going to continue to have it. But people are, a little bit concerned about some of the things they've been hearing out of Moscow and stuff like that. And in some instances, I share that concern. But I still like all those guys. I'm not planning on leaving the Fight, Laugh, Feast network. You know what I mean? I don't think I'm going to be removed from the Fight, Laugh, Feast network. I still believe in fighting, laughing, and feasting and all the same stuff. I still have the same theology that I had when I joined. Maybe there's some differences, but for the most part, general, I have the same theology, same beliefs, same everything. And, we can fight each other and all this kind of stuff. But you guys got to remember, like a lot of the edgy type stuff you do, the serrated edge type stuff you do, the rules for reformers that you read and you started applying, even though Doug doesn't agree with how you're applying it right now, and he's gonna fight you on that stuff. Look, again, this is all fine. I'm glad that Doug is fighting things that he doesn't believe in, doesn't agree with, and maybe I don't agree with the manner in which he's chosen to fight. That's okay, but Remember where you got a lot of this stuff, man. A lot of us got, I'm not saying all of you, but a lot of us got this serrated edge thing that we know is so effective and that we deploy when we feel like it's necessary. We got that from Moscow. I think a lot of us are willing to admit that. And all of the stuff that's happened in the last few months, that doesn't cancel that stuff out. That was still good stuff. That was still good stuff. We got to remember that, man, and I think show some respect to that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with, if you want to fight Doug Wilson, go ahead and fight him. I'm not going to try to stop you. You want to expose, some of the problems that you have with the ways they've gone about this fight. I think nothing but good can come from that. That's what I think. But I think don't take the black pill. Seriously, don't take it. Don't woe is me, Moscow has fallen, this and that. Like, look, even if you think Moscow has fallen on the issue of the post-war consensus or whatever it is, right? Even if you think that, okay, fine, that's an issue. It's a big issue. It's maybe one of the main issues, right? But man, don't forget all the value and all of the groundwork. This is the other thing too. Here's a little theory that I kind of spun the other day with someone I was talking to. Is that I think that, one of the reasons why, Moscow is fighting so aggressively here is because they do recognize that a lot of the serrated edge stuff and a lot of maybe the Civil War revisionism stuff that they engaged in unwittingly, I'm not saying they meant to do this, but it did potentially feed some of the other revisionist stuff that they see going on that they totally disagree with. Right? And some of the serrated edge stuff that they would say is probably not appropriate or ham-fisted attempts to try to copy what we were doing. They're not doing it right, but they recognize that there was some impact that their stuff had on what maybe the people they don't like so much these days are doing right now. And so they feel like maybe a duty to stop it, right? But remember, like, if that's the case, okay, understand that maybe some of the things you're into now, you wouldn't be into, you wouldn't be as knowledgeable about had Moscow not existed, right? And so even if they're, treating you like an enemy today, I think sometimes you can still be like, okay, you don't like me, I get it, whatever. You can still take your hat off to the fact that without them, you wouldn't be you. You know what I mean? I don't mean that literally, of course, you'd still be you, but, anyway. I think you guys get it. Look, when you're in a situation like this where you've got all these negative feelings of frustration and despair and just all this stuff, right? There's always two ways to go forward, right? There's the way of complete blackpilling about the whole situation and just kind of wallowing in that despair and cutting off ties. I mean, I've heard so many stories, man. This makes me sad too, and I heard a few stories from people where somebody, I'll just try to be general here, somebody that had shared and promoted the anti-Joel Webbin video from Tobias was fielding questions from friends of his, right? Like, hey, man, like, what about this? And it doesn't really seem like this was accurate and stuff like that. And just were met with insta-blocks. Insta-blocks, just cut you out of my life completely. I know we were friends, but even a little question, a little pushback, insta-block, cut you out of my life. That's the black pill way to approach stuff like this. It's total black pill. You don't have to do that. Like that, I know some people feel like they have no choice. I can never trust you again. I can never trust James White again. I can never trust Jeff Durbin again. I know a lot of you are in that position. You feel like you have no choice. And while I think that there is potentially some wisdom there, depending on the circumstance, but depending on the relationship and depending on the issue, I don't think that this blanket, everything that he ever taught me was wrong, like that kind of thing. I don't think it does you any good. I really don't. I think it hurts you more than it hurts them too, to cut people out of your life just for minor pushback or even major pushback, like just to have such an itchy trigger finger that you cut them out. Like, that's it. You're blocked. I don't even want you to see what I say anymore. It's like, man, like, I think you actually end up hurting yourself more than them. You know what I mean? I don't think that's the right way to go in most cases. In some cases, of course, but in most cases, it isn't, man. In most cases, and this is the route that I'm taking with Jeff Durbin and Apologia Radio, and Dividing Line and James White, and obviously Doug Wilson is involved in all this too, but in my opinion to a much lesser degree. Whatever, even if I'm wrong, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to watch their stuff. I'm still going to listen to the things they have to say. I do think they've earned a hearing. I think that, even if I disagree, like I don't have to agree with every single thing. And I never thought I did. This is what I wonder sometimes about people. Like, do you have to agree with every single thing the person says, or every big picture take that they have in order to get value or to promote what they've said in other areas? I just don't think that's the case, right? You don't have to do that. And so I'm still going to, when I see a, May blog that I think looks interesting, I'll still read it. I'll probably avoid some topics too, because I just have seen how this has gone in action. Like the next time, I hear that James White is identifying some anti-Semite, I'm just not going to pay attention to it. I'm not going to get all mad about it. I'm just not going to pay attention to it because it's just, I've seen who they call anti-Semites. I just don't care anymore. You know what I mean? I don't care. Maybe he's right this time, but it's no skin off my back. I don't have to know. You know what I mean? So there are topics that I'll avoid, but at the same time, there are topics that I'm like, man, he probably has some good insight here, right? And the next time I see James White or Doug Wilson, debate a pro-gay whatever, maybe I'll listen. He's got good insights there, or even on Islam to some degree. He's got some good insights there, and nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say, man. There's a bunch of different ways to go. And look, I'm not trying to get you to resubscribe to Canon Plus. You do whatever you want. You for whatever reason, you could cancel it. Even for no reason, you could cancel it. And it's no skin off my back. But as for me, I get tons of value from that. I'm not going to do that, right? I'm not going to do it. And I don't think anyone has to do that. Anyone has to feel sorry. Like if you, I talked to one person rather, that kind of felt guilty almost about, still subscribing to Canon Plus because they like Joel Webbin and all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, look, you don't have to do that. You don't have to explain yourself. You know what I mean? You just do whatever you want to do. Anyway, I don't know, man. There's a lot to look forward to. I got to say, one of the things that I think is, and I'm going to talk more about this in the future, but one of the things that I'm really looking forward to in the next few months, and I'm grateful for the last, I don't know, let's call it since October. So last 3 months, I'm grateful for this, is that a lot of people are starting to notice that there is a autistic way to be reformed. And I don't mean actual diagnosed autism, but I mean a kind of there's a deranged way. Maybe that's a better word, deranged. Because I don't think autistic people are deranged, but sometimes the way reformed Christians approach the world and approach theology is this hyper focus on certain things, and this wooden, there's no flexibility, there's no way to really engage with the world as it really is, which is very messy world that we live in. I think that has been exposed to the nth degree, and there are tons of the rabble of various reformed camps are in this position where they are just hyper deranged about very particular topics. And I think that's been exposed tremendously. And I think that in 2025, there is going to be, I think James White is right. There is going to be a divide, and there's going to be battle lines drawn. And I think one of the core areas where this is going to happen is this hyper deranged, sort of autistic style of reformdom, and then a reformdom that, look, we care about theology very much, and we, to us, it's very important, and we have very particular theologies. I have a very particular theology, but we're willing to engage Christendom in a much more realistic kind of a way. We're going to be able to deal with people that do not fit perfectly into our, theology, but we can absolutely lock arms with politically and the culture wars and stuff like this to great effect. I think that's going to happen. I think that's definitely going to happen. And you'll see the other side, the autistic side. Honestly, I'm not trying to insult real autistic people, because I use autistic as a compliment most of the time. But of course, we all know that there's an autism that is very beneficial and helpful in many ways, and we also know that sometimes it goes too far and it can be very detrimental to people. And so that divide that I'm talking about, where we've got the really deranged version of reformdom, and then we've got the realistic, able to engage the world as it is version of reformdom. That's going to be a divide, and it's going to be sold by the autistic side as, they're not even reformed. They're not even reformed anymore. They just don't care. They'll lock arms with anybody, like that kind of stuff. It's going to be sold as a departure from the gospel. That's the dividing line that's going to happen. It's going to be people that are actually engaging the world. Not a single ounce of their theology has changed, but they are willing to work with people in a broad spectrum. They're going to be sold as departing the faith, as not gospel focused enough, not gospel centered enough, and it's going to be quite funny, in my opinion, and we're going to laugh a lot about it in 2025, because the funny part is that we learned how to do this from those autistic reform people. There's just no question about it. There's going to be so many examples where we can show the inconsistency of what they're now saying about us. They used to do the same thing. We're just doing it with different people and different purposes, but it's going to be so easy to do that, and we're going to laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh, and we're going to have a great time, and we're going to continue to fight. And my prayer, my hope, is that through all of this, most of us who are reasonable, most of us who, we don't have to fight over, donors and stuff like that, and, influence or all this kind of stuff, we're still going to be able to feast, man. We're going to be able to enjoy each other's company, fight together, laugh together, and feast together. I'll tell this story. I don't want to blow up this guy's spot about what he was saying, but my wife reminded me of this. So Chris Bolt. You guys know Chris Bolt. So Chris Bolt, I think he's a great guy. I really do. And I'll never forget this. I called him a white knight once, and maybe Chris remembers this. I had to be reminded of this because, I didn't really remember. My wife reminded me of this, where I called Chris Bolt a white knight. I had some very negative things to say about Chris Bolt, which, sometimes I do have negative things to say about people. Anyway, after that, he went to one of the Fight, Laugh, Feast conferences, and he approached me. And we just chatted for a little while, and he actually had something like kind of spicy to say. I'm not going to tell you what he said, but it was critical of our conference. And I actually totally agreed with him, if I'm not mistaken. And he it's not like we ignored what I had said about him. He brought it up, and we talked about it. And I told him exactly why, I said what I said and all this kind of stuff. And I told him, look, man, I hope you understand from my perspective, like, it doesn't mean I think you're like a bad guy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just. And he's like, nah, don't worry about it, man. Don't even worry about it. I totally get it. I know where you're coming from. It's all good. And, man, that's just a guy, man. That's a guy that I could hang out with, man. I love that kind of thing. Listen, we can do this, man. We can fight, and we can laugh and feast together at the same time. And I predict that many of us will be doing this in 2025. We're going to have a great time. Dr. James White is exactly right. The dividing line, the battle lines are going to be drawn more sharply than ever before. And they're going to say all kinds of wild things about me, about my friends, and all this guy. We're not even reformed. They're already saying it. But it's not the case. And we're going to continue to do our thing, and it's going to be great. God bless you guys. I hope you have a great New Year's Eve tonight. If you've got plans, I hope you have fun. Stay safe out there. Please, don't get hammered. Don't do any of that stuff. It's not even that fun. Let's just be honest. It's not even that fun. I used to do it all the time, though. It was a disaster. But enjoy yourself. Have a few drinks if you want to, and we're going to get after it in 2025. I hope that God blesses you in 2025. I hope he looks after you and takes care of you. He's promised to do that for his people. And so I just pray that he he meets all of your needs this year, which I know he will. And man, it's been fun. It's been fun, man. I hope you found this video helpful. God bless.
Mi amor por ti es puro fuego.